Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa has called for urgent action to take politics out of local government. He says political interference is harming service delivery and weakening municipalities across the country. Hlabisa was speaking at the official launch of the review of the White Paper on Local Government in Kempton Park yesterday. The review aims to improve how municipalities work and look at better funding models and also to tackle service delivery problems with plans to finish it by March 2026. The Minister is now joining us to have that conversation. Minister, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. The last review that we had was in 1998. What is the intention behind this particular review and what you want to achieve?
Thank you very much, and good morning to yourself and the viewers of the channel Newzroom Afrika. After 27 years, we have learned a number of lessons, good lessons and bad lessons. It is always good from time to time to review the policy and be not afraid to take bold decisions where corrections must be made. One, the funding model in our municipalities has not worked since 1998. The 90% to be collected by municipalities and the other spheres of government to come on board with 10% has never worked. That needs to be changed in order to make our municipalities to be financially sustainable. As we know, many people are not working. If you go to deep rural municipalities, which they cannot collect from any source and could not get people to pay their rates, the funding model must be changed. And secondly, there are municipalities structurally who are not able to deliver services. We must ask a question. If a municipality is not fit to deliver services, why should we keep that municipality? This is what the community must confront, must be taken along. The minister is not going to dictate anything, but it must be people-centered, the review, so that when we move to the next 27 years or 30 years, we go with municipalities that will be able to deliver.
Yeah. Minister, wasn't the intention around the district development model as well to help capacitate some of these municipalities, especially the ones that are struggling?
The district development model is a way to go in this sense. What also transpired very clear yesterday, there is too much fragmented or uncoordinated intervention. Now, we have to channel every intervention, every support through one gate, district development model. But the DDM cannot help a municipality that is not fit for purpose. That is why we need to make a review. In urban areas, it is better, but go to deep rural areas, go to Free State, go to Northern Cape, go to Eastern Cape. Even where I come from, KwaZulu-Natal, there are municipalities, whatever you can do, there is just no revenue they can generate, and the existence of that sphere of government does not serve any purpose. Even if you can pump money, you will be having a liability all the times. This is not going to affect the representation of the people because their voice will remain a councillor who resides within them. But the number of municipalities is something that we must revisit. Strengthen DDM model, but in a fit for purpose municipality.
Okay. Explain to us, Minister, the process, for instance, of reviewing the number of municipalities, whereas on the other end you have the amalgamation that would be taking place of the various municipalities, as well as the proposals that will come ahead of every election, as we know, and that cycle has already started now. where there is a review of looking at, for instance, the demarcation of the various municipalities. Would this be a separate process from that process that is followed by the demarcation board?
This review process, which will be concluded in March next year, will have immediate recommendations on funding model. The funding model can start next year or the following year because budget is done every year. But if you have to redemarcate the boundaries, that will be effected in 2031 in the next local government, because from March next year to the election date, there will be no enough time to do so. And you don't need to rush the readjustment of boundaries. If you have to, you need to get more time to ensure that the amalgamation is seamless. But what is going to be urgent is the issue of funding and the issue of depoliticization of the staff. That one cannot wait. Immediately, once recommendations have been placed in the review, we need to start the process to make the employment at senior level in our municipalities to be a professional employment, people who are fit for purpose, people whom you can discipline without them running to their political party because they were deployed as cadres.
Yeah, and then you have the Constitutional Court judgment in relation, for instance, to the representation of senior members of unions, and with unions as well, we're speaking here about politics to a certain extent as well. So the Constitutional Court affirming their status as being senior members of a union while also being employed by local government. How then do you make sure that those lines don't get blurred?
No, there will be no conflict in terms of the Constitutional Court decision because it spoke about representation in a union, and also to a certain level, the senior members in the administration are not included in that decision. And the representation into a union has nothing to do with political deployment. The politicization is when people are deployed on the basis of their political affiliation to occupy senior positions and the capability is not there. And it eventually becomes difficult that how are you going to discipline a senior member because his or her employment was on the basis of deployment.
Yeah. Another one, Minister, is the question around attracting talent and the ability of local government to attract talent. Have you been able to identify what the stumbling blocks are?
The stumbling block is the remuneration packages. If you want to attract a young engineer, a young CFO, a young chartered accountant into a deep rural municipality, which pays a slow salary, it will be difficult. This is one area which is going to be a subject which must have a firm recommendation. Remuneration packages must be attractive, and furthermore, in deep rural areas, there must be a compensation because person working in a deep rural area is different from a person working in an urban area where his or her kids will go to good schools nearby. If a person says, I will go to work to that municipality, even if it is far from areas with good services, but the compensation in terms of salary must be attractive.
Yeah, that's the point that was raised by Matsidiso Lengoza that we were speaking to a bit earlier on as well. She's a budget analyst from Section 27. But one of the other issues that she raises, Minister, is around the ability of a seamless communication or conduit between local government, provincial government, as well as national government. Does this review speak to that at all?
Definitely talk to that, because I know, even myself, having been a councillor for 24 years, and even now as a minister, there is, as I said prior, there is no coordinated communication. You find 4 departments are intervening in one municipality and they are not talking to each other. We need to regulate how do we communicate in a municipality and how do we intervene in a municipality. And one other factor, there are so many legislation in the local government sphere. We need to regulate them, because while you are trying to obey this law and there's another law you are breaking, it is over-regulated, the local government sphere. That is one area we must deal with during this review.
And Minister, tomorrow is a budget at 3.0 as a member of the Government of National Unity and as leader of the IFP. Just quickly, your expectations around what you expect from the Minister tomorrow.
We are expecting a budget that will get the approval, if not of all parties, but the majority, because indeed, as members of the GNU, we have engaged each other and we have come into a common agreement. Of course, it may not be as similar as the previous one tabled in terms of the items that it was covering, because the removal of the VAT does create a shortfall, which in one way or another, it might mean some items not being able to come back as they were an advantage to the community. But what is more important, the concentration is going to be on growing the economy. More allocation will go to the construction. South Africa must be a construction site. As you saw, the unemployment rate increased. We must do all it takes to channel all resources to deal with unemployment and make South Africa work, make South Africa a construction site. It is going to be a good budget as a revised budget following the previous one.
Thank you so much for your time. That is the Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs